he wants to build mobile applications very quickly, and he wants to build mobile applications for both Android and iOS. So how can he do that? Enter Flutter. So I'm Monica Kumar Jethani, and I welcome you all to this presentation on building beautiful mobile applications using Flutter. So I'm a polyglot programmer with 4+ years of experience in software industry, and I read code, I write code, and I speak about code. And last but not the least, I share my birthday with Java. So before we start with the agenda, I would like to know how many of you here are native mobile application developers like Android or iOS? Okay. And cross-platform? Okay. And web application developers? Okay. Okay. So how many of you have tried React Native? Okay, good. So the agenda for this talk is that we'll have an overview of Flutter and Dart, steps for creating and executing your first Flutter project, introduction to Flutter widget framework, which are the heart and soul of Flutter, then an intro to Flutter packages, HTTP requests using Flutter, and then comparison of Flutter versus React Native. Okay, so you all must be wondering what is Flutter. So Flutter is Google's mobile app development SDK for building high quality interfaces. It is open source, and it works on the philosophy that you write code and you get executables for both Android and iOS. So let us have a look into Flutter features.
Users expect their apps to have beautiful designs, smooth animations, and great performance. To deliver on this, developers need to create new features faster than ever without compromising on quality or performance. That's why we built Flutter. Flutter is Google's mobile UI framework that provides a fast and expressive way for developers to build native apps on both iOS and Android. This is because apps and interfaces made with Flutter are built from a single codebase, compiled directly to native ARM code, use the GPU, and can access platform APIs and reactive framework. Plus, Flutter integrates with popular development tools, which means you can get started quickly with the editor or IDE you already know and love. Flutter moves the widgets, rendering, animation, and gestures into the framework to give you complete control over every pixel on the screen. This means you have flexibility to build custom designs. Flutter apps follow platform conventions and input feedback, such as scrolling, navigation, icons, fonts, and more. This is why apps built with Flutter are featured on both the App Store and Google Play Store. Flutter is great for developers both new and experienced in mobile. If you're new to mobile, Flutter gives you a fast, fun, and modern way to deliver native apps. If you're an experienced mobile developer, you can add Flutter to your existing workflows and tools to build new expressive apps. Flutter is free and open source and used by developers and organizations around the world, including enterprise, agencies, and startups. Visit flutter.io to get started today. We can't wait to see what you build.
Okay. So that was a very good video which is present on Google Developers channel on YouTube, and that gives you an overview of the features which are provided with Flutter. So let us have a look into what is Dart. So Dart is a programming language for Flutter. So those who are working on Android and want to create iOS apps, or those who are working on iOS and want to create Android apps, and they don't want to learn Java or Swift, so you can basically learn one language which is Dart, and you can create your mobile applications for both Android and iOS. So as Java is to Android, Swift is to iOS, Dart is to Flutter. So this Dart website, it has a great feature known as Dartpad, which is an editor where you can just type code and you can try it online. You can see your code getting executed and the outputs of whatever you have written. So I've shared the link to Dartpad. So basically the Dart website has good amount of features to help you get started, and Dartpad is a very great feature where you can just write your code and you can see the output. And that can not only be used to create mobile apps, but server apps and web applications. So Flutter installation is different for different different operating systems. So I've shared the link for installations, and for Windows, like I have recently done it. So you just need to download the zip, and you need to set the path to Flutter bin. And once you do the installation, whether it is on Windows or Mac, you need to run a command flutter doctor. So with Flutter Doctor, you can check whatever dependencies which are required for installation, are they complete or not. If they are complete, you see a tick which is next to the dependencies, and if it is not, if any dependency is not complete, then you see an exclamation mark, means you need to complete it before moving further. So, and in that case, when you get an exclamation mark, you get a statement saying that there are these many number of issues. So like first time when you start with Flutter, you get a agreement not that you have not agreed to an agreement, you get something like that when you start with it. So you get an issue, so you need to agree to the license agreement, then only you can move forward. And if there are no issues, you get the message no issues found, means it's a green signal, you can move forward. Then you can write code in Flutter using two IDEs, Visual Studio Code and Android Studio. So in both of them, you need to install the extensions. So I can show you this, how this can be done. So this is my Visual Studio Code. So go to View Command Palette and type extensions. You get this install extensions. And here type Flutter. So once, like I don't have network access right now, once you have, you'll get Flutter coming up. And since it's installed, so I won't be getting the install button. For those who have not installed, they'll be getting the install button. And then from Android Studio, you can go to settings and plugins. So Flutter is installed for me, so it gives me the uninstall option. For those of you who have not installed, you'll get the install option. And Android Studio will also prompt you to install Dart before installing Flutter. Okay, so these are the steps which I have covered. So now moving on to how to create your Flutter project in Visual Studio Code. So you can go to View Command Palette and type Flutter. So it gives you an option, this new project, this first option. Go there and you can give the name of your Flutter project. This is the IDE's theme. Okay, so there is a new Flutter project coming up, and you can see the folder structure of Flutter project. It has folders for Android, iOS. Lib folder is what you will be working on. Lib folder contains main.dart. So main.dart is a file which you will be working on while creating applications using Flutter. Your widgets UI will be here. Then you have a test package. So test package contains widget test dart, which is used to test whatever you have written in main.dart. Again, as we all know that whenever we write some code, we unit test it. So all the tests will go here. Then an important file here is pubspec.yml. So here you place all your dependencies. So suppose if I want to launch a URL from my application. So for launching the URL, I would need a package. So that package is a dependency for my application. So that dependency I'll be mentioning here. So as Android developers might be knowing, we put the dependencies in Gradle. So here we put it in pubspec.yml. So Android folder structure is similar to any Android project, and this is the same which you will be getting in Android Studio. So similarly, once you have Flutter plugin installed in Android Studio, you can create a Flutter project in Android Studio. So to do that, you need to follow these steps: File, New Flutter project. Instead of New project, you go to New Flutter project. And there are 4 different options. First is Flutter application, where you are building just for the end users. Second is Flutter plugin, where you are exposing an Android and iOS API. Third is Flutter package, where you are creating a Dart component like a widget. Fourth is a module, where you add a Flutter component to your Android application. So next screen, you give the Flutter SDK path, the project name, and the project description. Okay, so you need to go to main.dart, right click, start without debugging. So once you get your first Flutter application built, and when you try this start without debugging command to launch your application on your devices, you'll see the following output. So this is the demo Flutter project which comes up. And also Flutter has a Visual Studio Code provides you a feature when you work with Flutter which is known as hot reload. So you can immediately push your changes to the running app without losing the application state. So I'll show you the so this button is used for hot reload. Like we have instant run which is present in Android Studio, we have hot reload present for Flutter in Visual Studio Code. Okay, and also you can move to your Flutter project in command prompt, and there you can type Flutter run. So that will also run your Flutter application on your mobile device. And once you have Flutter installed, then you can simply type Flutter in command prompt. So that would give you a list of commands which you can use with Flutter. So as I said, the hot reload button is this green button. Then moving on to Flutter widget framework. So everything in Flutter is everything whatever you see on the screen is a widget. So as we have views in Android, we have widgets in Flutter. So as I said earlier, widgets are basic building blocks of Flutter application. So as you can see on the screen, these two screenshots show the widgets available. So the entire screen is a widget, and app bar is a widget. Entire screen is a widget which is known as scaffold widget, and app bar is a widget which is placed inside the scaffold widget. So like in Android developer side, we have the widget, we have the view tree coming, that is the parent view, then the child view. So similarly we do in Flutter. We have a parent widget, which in this case is scaffold widget, which is responsible for the entire screen. Then we have app bar, which is child of this that scaffold widget. Then scaffold widget has a body attribute where you have the rest of the screen, which in this case will comprise of the tab bar, which will be child widget, the second child of scaffold widget, and then the text fields, which will be child of the tab bar. So in both of these screenshots, I've highlighted the different widgets which are present, and like you can see here, so widget comprises of the image as well as the text. So there'll be a widget tree which can be drawn for a particular screen. So everything in Flutter is widget. It's parent widget. That there is a complex tree of widgets which is built when you create such an application. So this is an overview of main.dart. So you can see first we import package material because Flutter embraces material design. So we import material package. Then in second line, this main line, you can see the arrow notation, because main contains only one statement, so you can use this arrow notation. Otherwise, normally as we write applications using flower brackets, we need to follow that convention. So main calls run app with the instance of a widget, and the instance which it calls, it uses the instance of my app class. So my app is also a widget, and it extends from a stateless widget. And important thing in Flutter is that stateless widgets contain build method which return a widget. So here you can see the return type is built. Now Dart is a strongly typed language. So with its type inference capabilities, even if you omit the return type here or the type of the parameter, it is fine with that. So right hand side of the screen shows you that how we can simply omit the types and Dart will be fine with it. Okay, so there are two types of widgets in Flutter, stateless widget and stateful widget. So state is basically the data which is present in the widget. So stateless widgets have no internal state. like text, icon. Then stateful widgets are the widgets which manage state internally and they interact with the users, and the state keeps on changing. Like you can say the checkbox state, it can be checked or unchecked. Then slider, the value in the slider, so it keeps on changing. So on the right hand side you can see stateful widget, how it is written, and left hand side stateless widget. So stateless widget is, as I explained before, the widget contains the class extends from stateless widget and it has a build method which returns a widget. On the right hand side you can see stateful widget. So class extends from stateful widget, it has a method known as create state which returns a state. In this case we need to have two classes, one which extends from stateful widget, one which extends from state. So the one which extends from state has a build method, it returns a widget, and in the build method whenever the state changes it calls set state to inform Flutter that the widget needs to be reloaded because the state has changed. So you can see here how widgets work. So stateless widget takes the input data and it renders it onto the UI. Stateful widget, it has internal state, so it gets rendered when input data changes or when local state changes. So this is an example where you display the app bar. So as I said earlier, we have a scaffold widget which has a property app bar. So here we have named parameters. Material app is a widget which takes named parameters. So scaffold widget has a parameter named app bar, where you supply a widget known as app bar and it has a title. So you provide a title. Then text is a widget which does not have named parameters. You simply give the string to it. Then you supply the background color, what you want. You can even give the text color here. And it will result in the output you see on the right hand side, a simple screen with an app bar. Okay, then here we have a button. So you can see that as I told you, scaffold has a app bar and a body. So in the body you can like here the top level widget is container. So in place of container we can use other widgets which are used for building layouts, like row widget, column widget. So row widget is mainly for aligning the widgets in horizontal fashion. Column widget is for aligning the widgets in vertical fashion. So here we have a container widget and then we provide the alignment to it. We give the child which is a raised button. So this raised button is responsible for displaying a button. Then we supply a text to it. On press, here there is no body supplied to on press, so when you click it nothing will happen. Then you have a color, you have text color, and if you want some functionality when the button is clicked, so that can be added in on pressed. So now moving from one screen to another screen using button. So in Flutter we use terminology which we use in stack, that is push and pop. So when you push something, it gets pushed on the top of the stack, and when you pop something, the top entry gets removed. So when you move from first screen to second screen, you use push and you supply the instance of the second widget to be moved to. And then when you move from the second screen to the first screen, you just pop. So when you pop, it ultimately moves back to the previous screen. So here you can see I have used navigator.push to move from the first screen to the second screen, and there I have used pop to move from the second screen to the first screen. So building layouts using Flutter, so there are different widgets which you can use for it: container, column or row. And as you can see in this example, there is a column widget used and it has 3 children which are all text views. So all get listed in vertical fashion. Because it is a column widget, it will list in vertical fashion. Had it been a row widget, it would have placed all the children in a horizontal fashion. Okay, then there is a lot more to Flutter widgets. So you can go through this link. There are everything which you can do in Android and iOS. You get all those widgets here. and then using image assets in Flutter. So for doing that, first step is you create an assets folder and add an image to it. Then you need to add your assets in the so you can see this, just uncomment this and then give path to your image. Then you need to refer to that image using the image widget. So here I've used image widget and then I'm passing the path to that image. So in this example, since it's a column widget, it will first render the image and then on the bottom of the image it will place the text. Then Flutter packages. So packages are present in other object-oriented languages also, like Java. So does anyone know what packages are?
It's a group of software or
Yeah. So similarly in Flutter, we have packages. So when you go to this link, then you'll have the top Flutter packages present and you can even search for packages. So suppose I want to I want to launch a URL from my application. So in that case, I use URL launcher. So when I go to this link, then I'll get to know the exact version of URL launcher, the latest version. So that I need to put in the dependencies section. You can see URL launcher present there with the latest version. So whatever new packages you plan to use, you need to place them here with their exact version. Then to use this URL launcher, I've placed the URL and I've passed the URL as a parameter to the launch method. And also for using the, like as we do with Java and other languages, we need to import the package. So the second line shows that URL launcher being imported into the application. Then you can use the launch method, pass the URL to it. So it will, when you launch your application, you'll see a button, and when you click on it, it will open the URL in browser. So as you can see, on press here of button is calling the launch URL. So here it also shows the on press functionality when you press a button. Okay, so the moment you put a package in your pubspec.yml, it gives you an option to get the package. Like in Android Studio, we use sync Gradle, so it downloads the packages for us. Similarly, Flutter does for us. So okay, so you can see I have this option here for getting the packages. So it will download the dependencies which you need in your application. Okay, so now HTTP request in Flutter. So like any other application, you need to do HTTP calls. So for that, you need to add HTTP dependency in your pubspec.yml, and then you need to import the packages http:/async:/convert. Then you need to, because it is an asynchronous call, so you will need to use async and await. Async is for asynchronous call and await is when you wait for the asynchronous call to complete. So you pass the URL to HTTP GET, and if you have some headers in your headers for that URL, then you can supply it here, and you'll be getting the response. So you can convert into JSON, and later you can map the JSON to your Pojo class. So right hand side you can see the JSON, and left the Java class. Sorry, that class. So Flutter provides accessibility support, like you can have larger fonts, then whatever is there on the screen, the screen readers can read it, and also sufficient contrast. And then important portion is you can write platform specific code in Flutter. Means with Flutter you can communicate with your Android and iOS APIs. So that can be done through a concept known as platform channels. So the Flutter portion of your app, it communicates, it sends a message to the host portion, which is the Android and iOS. And Android and iOS portion, the host portion, it receives those messages. It communicates with the APIs, the Android iOS APIs, which are responsible to do the task, and then return the message to the Flutter portion of your app. So as you can see here, there is a message channel which links the Flutter portion of your app with your host. So on the client side, it is just responsible for sending the messages, and on the receiver side, it is responsible for receiving, performing, invoking the platform APIs. So for Android, it is a platform channel. It is a platform channel. For iOS, it is Flutter platform channel. Okay, so comparison of Flutter with React Native. React Native, as everyone knows, came 3 years back. Flutter is very new. React Native uses JavaScript. Flutter uses Dart, which is a completely different language. So anyone who doesn't know Java, JavaScript, Swift, Objective-C can just try out Flutter. Then documentation for Flutter is very clear, well structured. For React Native, it's not very clear. Then application performance with Flutter is good because it compiles the code into machine code. Flutter, the community is small, but it's rapidly growing because it's new. So the community is small, but it's rapidly growing. React Native, since it came 3 years back, so community is growing. Then installation also, Flutter is quite straightforward, and as I showed you, Flutter Doctor, which detects the dependencies which are required for the installation to be complete. So there is that automated checkup of dependencies which Flutter provides with itself. Then because React Native came years back, so there are many applications which are developed in React Native like Walmart, Airbnb, LinkedIn. But Flutter, as of now, there are 2 applications available which are developed with Flutter, like Flutter Gallery, Hamilton. So recently, Flutter release preview 2 was released in September 2018, and it provides Cupertino widgets for iOS and background execution of Dart code, and there is a lot more functionality which it provides, so that is available on the Flutter official site. Then you can go through Flutter official site and have a look at the different range of features Flutter provides with itself. There's a code lab also to help you get started with Flutter, and also there is a conference, Flutter Live, which will take place in December. So you can register for that, and you can keep following Flutter and updating and exploring on latest technologies. Okay, so this is it. So are you all ready to try out Flutter?
Yes.
Okay, so if there are any queries, you can reach out to me at my Gmail ID. Thank you. Yeah.
So can we run like for Android and for iOS?
Yeah, I guess this application which is built, so you can run the same application. Like I have connected my Android device, and like I have a device, otherwise I can open Android Studio and emulator I can launch, so I can run there. So if you connect an iOS device, you can run the same application in.
So was it your device which you
Yeah. You can try the same thing in simulator, but like Android, for that, for launching the virtual device, you need Android Studio. You need to open it and launch the emulator. So iOS also has Xcode from where you need to launch. So just launch, keep the device handy, and then you can just start without debugging. So application will get launched on your device or emulator. Thank you.
If I to develop directly in Android, right, versus developing through Flutter, is there any overheads attached to?
No. Same application, like in Android Studio. Android Studio is Google's official ID. So in Android Studio, you can build both Android projects and Flutter projects. And I am also new to Flutter, so the much I've explored on it, I don't see any overhead. Because had it been something, then Google would have not incorporated this Flutter functionality in Android Studio. But it is available in Android Studio for both Android and Flutter projects. So I don't.
Other way of looking at it, it's a cross-platform. Though.
There is a list of system dependencies present while installation. So like those system dependencies you need to take care of. It is available on different operating systems and different different configurations for operating systems. So on the website they have given the steps for installation and the system requirements. So it will be available for those system requirements only.